There is a moment when the silence between heartbeats reveals a trembling underneath, a whisper in the chest, a tightening in the breath. That is fear. Fear, silent yet loud, invisible yet heavy, walks with us like a shadow. It wears many faces: the fear of failure, of rejection, of loss, of death. But beneath them all there is only one fear: the fear of not being enough, of not being safe, of not being in control. It builds its temple in the mind, and the mind, believing its own stories, bows to it like a prisoner bows to a false king. But what if I told you that fear is not real, that it is born not from truth but from delusion, that the Buddha, long before we ever named our anxieties, walked this very terrain of trembling and stepped beyond it? Over 2,600 years ago, beneath the shelter of a Bodhi tree, a man sat with his fears, not to conquer them, but to understand them, not to escape them, but to embrace them. And in that silent sitting, he awakened. The light of his realization spread like dawn through darkness, a light not of promises, but of clarity, not of escape, but of freedom. He did not become a god. He became awake, and in his awakening he showed us this truth: you do not need to destroy your fear. You only need to stop feeding it. Let go, and you will see you were never caged. This journey, your journey, is not about becoming fearless, but about seeing fear for what it is: a mist that vanishes in the light of awareness. Come now, walk with me on this path, the path the Buddha walked, the path of seeing, of knowing, of being free. Let us begin. Number 1, recognizing fear as an illusion. Fear begins in the mind, but it nests in the body. You feel it before you name it. A flicker in the gut, a racing in the chest, a restless energy behind the eyes. It speaks in stories. What if I fail? What if they laugh? What if I'm not enough? But pause, breathe. Where are these fears right now, in this moment? Are they here, now? Or are they projections, phantoms of a future that hasn't come, echoes of a past that no longer exists? This is the first key. Fear is an illusion, a fabrication of the thinking mind. As the Buddha taught, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. The fearful mind constructs its own prison and then forgets it holds the key. In the fire of mindfulness, illusions, let us see clearly now. Have you noticed how fear always needs time to exist? It cannot live in the present. It needs a future to worry about or a past to regret. But the present is silent, vast, and unshaken. When you are truly here, where is the fear? It dissipates, because fear is a mirage, sustained only by the running mind. The more you chase security, the more you run from shadows. But when you stop, when you return to this breath, this moment, you meet something deeper than fear. You meet yourself, and that self, untouched by stories, is unshakable. The Buddha once said, "Just as a solid rock is not shaken by the storm, even so the wise are not moved by praise or blame." That unshaken place is already in you. It is not something to create. It is something to Fear hides it like clouds hide the sun. But the sun does not need to fight the clouds. It simply shines, and the clouds move on. When you see fear as it is, not as an enemy, but as a passing cloud, you begin to wake up. And in that waking, you realize fear is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It reveals where you are clinging, where you do not yet trust, where you still believe the illusion of control. And once you really see, the illusion falls apart. Like waking from a dream, you laugh, not because it was never scary, but because it was never real. This is the first wisdom. To recognize fear as illusion is to take the first step into freedom. Number 2, transforming fear into mindfulness. When a child awakens from a nightmare, crying in the dark, what do? You do not scold the child. You do not say the monster is real. You hold them. You breathe with them. You light a candle, and the shadows flee. Fear is much the same. It is the frightened child within you, and the candle is mindfulness. Mindfulness does not destroy fear. It embraces it. It does not resist. It welcomes. Because what you resist persists. What you embrace transforms. The Buddha taught, as rain falls equally on the just and the unjust, so does mindfulness fall equally on all that arises, pleasant or painful, joyful or fearful. So when fear comes, do not push it away. Do not panic or judge it. Instead, bow to it gently. Say, "Ah, there you are, old friend. Come, sit with me. Let us breathe together." Breathe in. I know you are here. Breathe out. It is okay. With every breath, you become the space around the fear, the witness, the calm center. Fear loses its grip when it is seen, because fear thrives in darkness, but withers in the light of attention, like a lotus rising from mud. Mindfulness grows precisely from the soil of discomfort. The mud is not the enemy. It is the womb of awakening. So do not wait until you are fearless to begin. Begin where you are. Even if your hands shake, even if your heart pounds, begin and bring awareness into the trembling. Just as the flame does not fear the wind, the mindful heart does not fear emotion. It allows fear to rise and to fall, to come and to go. And in that allowing, you discover something profound. Fear is not the problem. Your resistance to it is. A great teacher once said, "Suffering is what happens when we believe we shouldn't suffer." But mindfulness says, even this is welcome. Even this fear, this doubt, this pain, all of it is part of the path. When you hold your fear with awareness, you discover that it's softened. And beneath it is grief. And beneath the grief is tenderness. And beneath the tenderness is life itself. Mindfulness peels back the layers. It is not always comfortable, but it is always real. And what is real heals. So do not try to be brave. Try to be present. Let the breath be your anchor. Let the body be your temple. Let the moment be your teacher. Return again and again to the now. No matter how many times the mind wanders, return. This is the art of walking with fear. Not ahead of it, not behind it, but beside it, with kindness. The Buddha never promised a life without fear. He promised a path through it. And that path begins here, with one breath, one step, one sacred act of mindfulness. There will be moments when fear rises like a tide. Let it rise. Be the mountain, not the wave. Rooted in awareness, unshaken by the storm. And you will find, not only does fear begin to fade, but in its place, something else grows. Clarity, compassion, courage. Because mindfulness is not passive. It is the seed of transformation. And once planted, it cannot help but grow. So, whenever fear visits you next, do not turn away. Turn inward. Turn present. Say to yourself as the Buddha did beneath the Bodhi tree, "I see you, fear. You may stay, but you no longer rule me." This is the second wisdom. To transform fear into mindfulness is to reclaim your power. Number 3, letting go of control and embracing acceptance. There comes a moment on every path when the effort to hold everything together becomes too heavy. And in that moment, you are faced with a choice. Clench tighter or let go. Most of us, conditioned by fear, choose control. We grasp at certainty like a drowning man clings to driftwood. We plan, calculate, predict as if the universe were a machine and we its anxious operators. But deep down, you know, life is not a machine. It is a river. You cannot command the river. You cannot demand that the current flow your way. You can only learn to float. Control is a myth, whispered by the ego. It tells you, if you plan enough, if you prepare enough, you will not suffer. But no plan has ever stopped the waves. No preparation has ever prevented loss. The Buddha saw this clearly. He taught that suffering arises not from life itself, but from our attachment to how life should be. That is the root of fear. Not what is happening, but that it is not happening the way we want. And so we suffer. But what if we softened our grip? What if we could meet each moment, not with resistance, but with acceptance? Acceptance is not apathy. It is not resignation. It is the quiet courage to allow reality to be what it is before we try to change it. It is to say, this is happening, and I will not turn away. A storm does not ask your permission to come, but you can learn to dance in the rain. When the Buddha taught the first noble truth, that life contains suffering, he was not casting a shadow. He was pointing to the path, because only by accepting the truth of suffering can we find the path to its cessation. Letting go is not failure. It is faith. Faith, not in a deity, but in the unfolding of life. Faith that even when things fall apart, something deeper remains unbroken. In letting go, we do not lose control. We lose the illusion of control. And what we gain is peace. It is like opening your hand after years of clutching a stone. At first it hurts. The fingers have forgotten how to relax. But then there is freedom. Freedom to feel. Freedom to breathe. Freedom to live without the burden of orchestrating every outcome. The lotus does not control the mud. The tree does not control the wind. Yet both flourish. So too can you practice this. When fear arises, ask, what am I trying to control? Then breathe, and gently let it go. Let go of needing to be right. Let go of needing to be perfect. Let go of needing others to approve, or the world to comply. And instead, return to what is. The breath, the body, the present. In this letting go, a space opens, and in that space, peace enters, even joy. For the universe has never required your control, only your trust. And when you trust, you begin to float like a leaf on the river, carried not by effort, but by surrender. And surrender is not passivity. It is alignment with the Dharma, with the great intelligence of life itself. Look to the Buddha's final words. All conditioned things are subject to decay. Strive on with mindfulness. He did not say to control impermanence. He said to accept it and walk forward mindfully. This is the third wisdom. To let go of control and accept what is to step into the river of life and realize it was always carrying you. Number 4, cultivating wisdom. Prajna, to see the nature of impermanence. There is a quiet truth resting at the heart of all things. A truth too simple for the restless mind to grasp, yet too vast for words to fully hold. Everything changes. This body, this breath, this moment, all are impermanent, fleeting, vanishing like morning mist under the sun. And yet, we forget, we cling to what is passing. We grieve what is lost. We fear what may come. And in that forgetting, fear is born. Fear lives in the illusion of permanence, in the desperate hope that what we love will stay, and that what we dread can be avoided forever. But the Buddha, in his boundless clarity, invited us to see more deeply. He offered not a doctrine, but a mirror, a way of seeing that cuts through delusion. He called it Prajna, transcendent wisdom, the eye that sees clearly into the nature of reality. Not with cold analysis, but with warm, penetrating insight. To see that all phenomena are born, remain for a while, and then dissolve, just like waves upon the ocean. Not separate, not lasting, not solid. So too are our thoughts, our emotions, our identities, our fear. When you see that fear itself is impermanent, it begins to lose its power. Because how can something so passing, so insubstantial, define who you are. No wave defines the ocean. No moment of fear defines your being. The Buddha once said, "He who sees impermanence with wisdom becomes disenchanted with what is not real." And from that disenchantment, freedom arises. This is not nihilism. It is liberation. When you realize the fragile, fleeting nature of all things, you no longer need to possess them. You no longer need to be afraid of their loss. You honor their beauty by letting them pass. You learn to love without clinging, to feel without attachment, to live without fear. Wisdom is not an escape from the world. It is awakening within the world. It is seeing the falling leaf and knowing this too is the dance of life. It is hearing the sound of laughter or tears and knowing this too shall pass. It is sitting with your fear and instead of recoiling, asking it gently, "What are you trying to protect?" And listening. Wisdom. Listen, not just to teachings, but to silence, to suffering, to impermanence. And from that listening, a deeper knowing arises. You begin to see that what you are is not the fear, not the thoughts, not even the body. You are awareness itself, the sky behind the clouds, unchanging amidst all that changes. When fear says this will last forever, wisdom smiles and says nothing does. When fear says you cannot survive this, wisdom whispers, you already have. When fear says you are small, wisdom reveals the vastness of your being. This is the light that Prajna offers, a vision so clear, so cutting, that it breaks the chains of delusion with compassion, not violence. It is the sword that does not wound, but frees. Let this wisdom grow in you, not through books, but through observation, not through belief, but through awareness. Watch how everything comes and goes. Your breath, your emotions, your pain, your joy. Let them arise. Let them pass. Rest in the seeing. And slowly, gently, the world becomes less solid, less threatening, less fearful. Because you see that what changes is not you. You are the witness, the still point in the turning world. And in that stillness, fear dissolves like salt in water. What remains is clarity, peace, compassion. This is the fourth wisdom. To see impermanence with the eye of Prajna is to awaken from the dream of fear and rest in the truth that nothing needs to be held. Number 5. Finding strength in silence and meditation. There is a voice that does not speak in words. It does not shout. It whispers softly, firmly, does not explain, does not argue. From the depths of your being, you can only hear it in silence. The world is loud, our fears even louder. But silence, true living silence, is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of disturbance. It is the still lake into which all restlessness dissolves, not the strength that clenches fists. And it is in this stillness that you meet your true strength, but the strength that opens, but the strength of presence, not the strength of resistance. The Buddha did not awaken through battle, through sitting beneath the Bodhi tree. He awakened through stillness, with unwavering attention, not with violence. He faced Mara, the embodiment of fear, temptation, and illusion, and meeting everything, pain, fear, doubt, with silent clarity. He did not fight. He did not run, but with presence. He simply said, and Mara disappeared. I see you. This is the power of meditation, not escape, not denial, but the courageous act of sitting still while the storms pass through. To meditate is to stop running, to stop grasping this breath, this body, to return to what has always been here, this now. It is to become the mountain as the winds of fear howl around you. You notice, you breathe, you sit. Fear begins to unravel because fear feeds on reaction. And in that noticing, a miracle occurs. But in meditation, you do not react. You observe. The breath comes in. You feel it. The breath goes out. You feel it. A thought arises. What if I fail? You see it. You do not follow it. Again and again to the breath, and slowly the mind quiets. You simply return. The body softens. The self expands. You begin to notice a space vast, boundless. Between the thoughts, there is only being, and in that space, there is no fear. Meditate. Do not delay. The Dhammapada says, lest you later regret your inaction. Because through meditation, you do not just reduce fear, you dissolve the very ground in which fear takes root. In silence, you remember who you are beneath the noise, unchanging. You touch something ancient, timeless, but full of aliveness. This is not the stillness. You taste the stillness that is not empty, and it gives rise to something extraordinary, but the stillness of awakening. Equanimity, the unshakable balance of the mind, where pleasure does not intoxicate, and pain does not overwhelm. But to taste this silence, where fear arises and passes like a breeze, and you remain grounded, open, you must return to it daily. The soul needs stillness. Just as the body needs food, sit, even if for a few minutes. Close your eyes, feel your breath, watch your mind, like clouds passing through the sky. Meditation is not about results. Do not expect peace to come instantly. It is about returning, again and again, to now. Begins to follow you into the world. In moments of fear, over time you will find that the silence you touch in meditation, a quiet clarity beneath the chaos. In moments of confusion, you will feel a stillness behind the panic. This is the gift of practice. It makes you vast enough to hold it without drowning. It does not make fear disappear. And this vastness is your strength. So let silence be your temple. Let meditation be your returning, not to something outside, but to the vast peace already within. In silence and meditation, you rediscover your unshakable core. This is the fifth wisdom, the place where fear has no foothold, and your true power arises from stillness. Number 6. Living with compassion and letting go of attachment to results, nor from control. There is a freedom that does not come from power, nor from success and action without attachment. It comes from love without condition, a freedom rooted in compassion. This is the freedom the Buddha taught, nourished by selflessness. We live in a world obsessed with results and untouched by outcomes. We measure our worth by what we achieve, and so we feel by whether we win or lose, by how others respond. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. But all of this fear is born from a single root. The Buddha saw this clearly, attachment to outcome. He taught, do your work with mastery, but let go of the fruits of your action. Because when your happiness depends on success, when your peace relies on how others respond, you are forever a slave to circumstance. You are forever at the mercy of the world. But when you act with compassion, with love, and let go of the result, you are free. With intention, you become like the tree that offers its fruit, or whether it will be praised. Not asking who will eat it, you give, because giving is your nature. This is the path of the Bodhisattva, the awakened one who moves not for self-gain. Compassion is not sentimentality, but for the liberation of all beings. It is fierce. It is bold. I will love anyway. It looks fear in the eye and says, you may not return my kindness. It says, but I will be kind, but I will remain true. You may not understand my silence. You may leave, because compassion is not dependent on reward. It is its own reward. But I will still offer peace. And when you live this way, from the heart, not the ego, you are no longer shaken by success or failure. You do what is right, because it is right, not because it will be rewarded. And in that pure offering, not because it will be recognized. Our image, our reputation, our gain. Fear has no home. Fear only arises when we are trying to protect something. But the compassionate heart is not concerned with such things. It is like the sun. It shines on all worthy or unworthy, grateful or ungrateful without discrimination. It is fulfilled, and in this shining, can you serve and let go? So ask yourself, can you love and not cling? Can you speak your truth and release the need to be understood? This is not weakness. This is the ultimate strength. You are invincible. Because when you are no longer controlled by the reactions of others, the Bhagavad Gita echoes this same truth. Set thy heart upon thy work, but never on its reward. This is not a call to apathy, but to fearless engagement. To show up fully, give your best, and release, and then bow. Let each act be like a lotus offered to the sacred river. You remain rooted in peace. Then, no matter what comes, pure, whole, and already complete, you are no longer driven by fear of what you might lose. You are moved by love for what might be healed. When you live with compassion, it is not the absence of fear, it is fearless. And this love, but the transcendence of it. I see the suffering. It says, I feel the trembling, and I choose to serve anyway, and I choose to move anyway. This is true courage, not the absence of vulnerability, but the refusal to abandon love in the presence of fear. Let this love guide you. Let compassion be your compass. Let go of what you cannot control and pour your heart into what you can. Your presence, your integrity, your care. This is the sixth wisdom. To live with compassion and let go of attachment to results is to act from love, not fear. To serve the world, and in doing so become unshakably free. Number 7. Acting with fearlessness, the spirit of Abhaya. After silence has been honored, there is a moment when the soul is called to rise. After love has taken root, after wisdom has bloomed, not to hide, but to act, not to escape, to step forward, but with Abhaya, the fearlessness of a heart awakened, not with trembling. It is not recklessness. Fearlessness is not arrogance. It is not the absence of fear. True Abhaya arises with fear and moves anyway. It is the quiet, powerful knowing. No matter what comes, I will remain whole. This is the fearlessness of the Buddha. I have a right to be here. This is the fearlessness of the awakened heart, touching the earth beneath him and declaring that sees impermanence, loss, uncertainty, and still chooses to love, to serve, to walk the path. You may think fearlessness belongs only to warriors, to saints, but look again, to sages beneath Bodhi trees. Every time you choose truth over comfort, you embody Abhaya. Every time you speak with honesty, you walk the Buddha's path, though your voice shakes. Every time you stay with the moment, instead of running to distraction, you become the Dharma in motion. Fearlessness is not found in the grand gesture the Buddha taught, but in the small sacred acts of presence. To be fearless, you must let go of self, but the awakened one sees, because it is the self, the ego, that fears death, failure, judgment. There is no fixed self to defend, only this great dance of life and death and rebirth, only unfolding. There is only process. When you know that everything arises and passes, what is there to fear? What is there to protect when you have already let go? Abhaya does not make you invincible. It makes you real, acting from love. It brings you into alignment with what matters most, living from your values, serving without needing approval. It says, I will act with courage, not because I will succeed. I will speak with truth, but because it is right. Not because I will be understood, but because silence would betray the soul. I will walk with dignity, but because I was born to walk it. This is not bravado, not because the path is certain, and it is contagious. This is sacred clarity for the one who lives without fear of being seen. The one who dares to act without fear of outcome gives others permission to be seen. Open space for others to do the same. Abhaya is not for the chosen few. It is your birthright, but you must claim it. How? Not by forcing, but by remembering. You are not the stories that say, you are not the frightened thoughts in your head. I am not enough. You are the awareness beneath them. And when you rest in that awareness, the space in which they rise and fall, you become fearless because you no longer cling to anything. You speak, you give, you love, and then you let go. You act. Just as the tree offers its fruit to the wind, just as the wave returns to the sea, this is the art of fearless living. Not without trembling, but without retreat. Not without pain, but without collapse. And in this way, you become a light in the world. Not because you shine the brightest, but because you do not dim yourself for fear of burning. You walk the path of the Dharma. You become the teaching. You become the refuge. This is the seventh wisdom. To act with Abhaya is to live from the truth of your being. Undaunted, unshaken, free to serve the world with clarity and love. There comes a moment on every soul's path. Letting go of fear is the beginning of invincibility. When you realize the prison was never locked, the walls only shadows of your own making. The chains were made of thoughts, have always held the key, and you, fear was never the enemy. It was the teacher, the gatekeeper of transformation, the sacred fire through which you would remember your truth. You walked into this journey believing you had to fight fear, to silence it, to overcome it. You only need to stop obeying it. But now you see, you do not need to defeat fear. And when you do, around the need for approval, when you stop building your life around the avoidance of pain, you awaken. Not suddenly, around the hunger for certainty, not loudly, but deeply, like a mountain emerging from the mist. You realize that everything you were searching for was waiting in the silence of your own being. You are not broken. You are not fragile. You are not lacking. You are awareness. You are love. You are free. You are not fearless because nothing can touch you. You are fearless because you no longer need to be untouched and still be whole. You can be wounded. You can be afraid and still move forward. You can be uncertain and still radiate clarity. This is what it means to walk the Buddha's path, not to float above the world, but to walk through it, grounded, clear-eyed, open-hearted, not with grasping. To meet each moment, you have learned to see fear as illusion, not with avoidance, but with the calm gaze of a soul that trusts the Dharma. To surrender control and rest in what is, to transform it into mindfulness, to cultivate wisdom and see the ever-changing nature of all things, to draw strength from silence, and now to move with Abhaya, to act with compassion without clinging to reward. It is a revolution of the heart. This is not just philosophy, a way of being in the world that says, I am ruled by love, by presence. I am no longer ruled by fear, by clarity. And when you live this way, you become unstoppable, but because you rise without bitterness. Not because you win every battle, not because you never fall, but because you've stopped needing to fight, but because you have changed. Not because the world changes. This is your birthright, not just to survive, but to awaken, to live with peace, to move with power, to walk with compassion, to shine fearlessly. Do not hesitate. So now, beloved listener, not more control. The world needs not more noise, but more presence. Not more control, but more surrender. Not more striving, but more stillness. Let this be your vow, to walk into life not with armor, but with awareness. To speak not with fear, but with love. To live not for outcome, but from truth. You are not here to be small. You are not here to hide. You are here to wake up, to rise, to remember you are here to walk the Buddha's path, not in robes or temples, but in the quiet courage of everyday life. Let go of fear and step forward. The world awaits you, not the version of you protected by fear, but the one revealed by love. That one cannot be stopped. That one